Right, Football Daft fans, we need to remind you each and every week about G4 claims, because if you've been in a road traffic accident and it's not your fault, don't be going to your insurance company, don't be getting your premium sky high. Why not use G4 claims? Because they're going to make it a hell of a lot easier for you. They provide you with complete accident management support that you need. They're going to recover the cost for the at-fault party. And while they're dealing with your motor, they're going to send you a vehicle that's very much like your own. So it's a vehicle replacement, a like-for-like vehicle replacement. They're going to organise your vehicle to be repaired at one of their approved body shops. And should your vehicle be in the right half, then they're going to recover the pre-accident value for your car. Then they'll write you a big fat check, and best of it, it doesn't cost you a penny, basically. They charge the insurance directly. They don't cold call you. They're not going to buy your data. And once they've processed your claim, your insurance, that's not going to be touched. And the best thing is, Nicole and the team are there. They're not going to take your case off. They're not going to be taking your case on if they don't think that they can help. So if you've been in a road traffic accident or you know somebody that has, get on to G4 Claims on 01698 767 172. That's 01698 767 172. Their website's notatfaultclaim.com, or you can find them on social media at G4 Claims Limited, because G4 Claims, not at fault claims.
Made easy.
Now, please welcome to the show. He is the current Motherwell reserve manager, but he's played football all over the place. I must admit, this guy right here, I'm going to haver a wee bit, right? But Maurice Ross, I don't know, I find it's weird, right? Because we've got Maurice Ross on the show, right? And I remember I watched you play for Rangers. In fact, I actually saw you at the front door at Ibrox when you were a player. You were in your tracksuit at 2:20, and I shouted, "Maurice, you playing today?" And you shouted no, right? And I just right.
I'm sorry.
No, but what I'm saying is, you were like a boy. You were like a wee boy, right? Mm-hmm. And then fast forward all these years, and I see you, and you talk well. You talk with intelligence. You've got books in the background right now, as we see. And I just see somebody that looks as if they're going to be a very successful manager, and it totally blows my mind because of the perception I had of you as a player and seeing you now. And I say I'm quite intimidated. I think you're like, you remember who did we have on the show once? Big Rob Jones, and he was going about how he was just dead serious about Fitbit, and I see with Maurice, and I love it, and I love listening to him. And so we've got Maurice Ross on the show.
That was some intro, so I'm
do you like that?
Get books in the background.
But you get what I mean? But is there other folk that are kind of taking it back, because you're totally switched on? Whether that's because you're exposed quite a lot in the media, and there's other folk like you, but is it a surprise?
No, I think that comes with maturity as well. I mean, when you're 20-year-old, you know, and you're in the Rangers first team, you know, you get carried away with all the extracurricular stuff, if you want to put it that way. But I mean, I've always loved football. I've always been into football. I've always been studious in my approach. But listen, I think if you look back when you were 20, you'd have behaved like a 20-year-old. I mean, I'm coming up for 40 now, and I'm, like, as you touched on it, I'm totally dedicated and immersed within football. And I'm just in a good place. I'm coaching at a brilliant football club.
How is things at Motherwell, Maurice? How's it going, mate? The club's in a good place, and I mean, you get good manager, good players, young players. How's it all looking there?
Well, obviously, I mean, you know that we're fan owned. Selling players like David Turnbull and James Scott. You know, we're debt free, which is quite something these days, considering we've only really got like 4,000 fans. Yeah, Motherwell is exactly what it says in the tin. It's a homely, nice club that look after their own, and we seem to be able to reinvent the first team every year. We end up losing 8 players. We bring in young boys, players from down south. You know, we always feel like we're, no disrespect to the players, but we're signing the raggy dolls. You know, we're signing boys that have maybe been injured or fell at an academy, that they've never really had a chance at first team football, and they come up here and they get coached within an inch of their life. And you know, when we sign players for the first 3 months, they're like punch drunk because of the level of detail we're going into the training pitch. But when they get through that kind of 3-4 month period, they seem to really blossom and do well.
Aye, because as you look at the team, like, I mean, we had Keith Lasley on the show a few months ago and talked about David Turnbull and stuff, and obviously he was like your crown jewel to a lot of teams, and you look at him and he's such a talented player. But a club like Motherwell, how hard is that, losing a player like that, and then like he moves, and then you've got other players coming in and stuff? How hard is it to replace him?
That's our business model, so we've always signed up to that. And we're actually delighted for the boy. You know, what we do is we offer an environment which is no frills, but you come to work every day and you get coached and you get pushed and you get educated. Now, I'm not just talking about on the football side, but diet and, you know, like any football club, but we take pride in it because that is our basic, that is our currency. We've got to do that because we can't go and spend money. So we take pride in the education side. So you bring boys in that are quick or they're strong or they're 6'2", and like Declan Gallagher. No, Declan Gallagher is a great example that he was at Dundee, went to Livingston, fell out of favour at Livingston so much so that I tried to sign Declan Gallagher to come to the Faroe Islands with me 3 years ago. So I was in dialogue with Declan to take him there. Fast forward 2.5, 3 years, and he's a standout for Scotland because he had raw attributes. We put him on the straight and narrow. We educated him slightly, and he's now looking like he's a first pick for Scotland. So again, to go back to the losing David Turnbull, it's a celebration for us. Us selling David Turnbull keeps our doors open for 2 years.
Totally.
It's really small. So when we do that, you know, the chairman's happy, the manager's not happy per se, but we are confident enough that we can go and find another young lad. And by the way, we've got players in the building, Liam Polworth. Liam Polworth for top clubs in England down the Championship.
He's technically so gifted, him, man. He's a good player, Polworth, man. Every time I see him, he looks a right-handed player. He looks so good with the ball.
He's young. I mean, he's young. I mean, you look at him, you think, he must be 33. But but there's a boy was at Inverness, was always getting his 20 assists a season. The body language was poor, or the running capacity wasn't at maximum. Coming into us, now I'm not saying we're this wonderful thing, but you come into us and the standards are set in stone straight away. You need to play professional football, you need to run. You think about it, if a Premiership midfielder at Manchester United, he's on the ball for a minute, maximum. A minute. So we talk about all this technical training, touches. Football's about decision making. It's about running. It's about moving in sync with your teammates. So it's not just about what's Polworth, because he'll always have talent. If you drop him in the middle of Antarctica, he will still show his talent. So it's about harnessing what they've got with adding certain other traits and characteristics, and that's when you can see boys like Declan Gallagher, Alan Campbell. I mean, there's Liam Donnelly. He's been injured this year, but he's another one that's been a revelation who will kick on to bigger and better things.
So if you see like a talented young boy coming through, Maurice, right, and you see there's issues with their behaviour, or they've got stuff that needs to be addressed into their values and stuff like that, and their etiquette within playing football. Do you see that as a frustration, or is it maybe a sort of a challenge for you to try and shape this guy into becoming the best he can be?
Typically, we don't sign players with behavioural issues, Grado. I mean, you can say behavioural issues is they're not very nice people. That's a behavioural issue, right? But if their behaviours are, he's lazy. Now that's a trait as such, but Liam Polworth could have been deemed to have been lazy when he was at Inverness, but he's actually not. It's just that we've not had to focus on his talent because the talent's always there. How can we make you better? I can't make your touch better, but we can make you fitter. We could educate you in the position where you play. So it's about controlling what's controllable in players' daily behaviours, but we wouldn't assign a bad egg as such.
It's interesting, but like, and it seems so fresh, but then it shouldn't seem fresh. You know what I mean, Bob? Like it's cool, isn't it? Well, I think you're the perfect guy to ask your thoughts on social media with football players. What's your thoughts on it?
I feel sorry for them, actually.
Right.
I think if you can control it, if you've got someone that controls you, or you're of that level-headed, that it's okay to put you doing the gym and doing positive things, but sometimes the players get battered, and listen, these boys are 23 to 28-year-old or whatever, full of testosterone, fit as anything, can fight for fun, and they've got some wee guy that's goading them, or maybe not even one guy, it could be 1,000 people that goad them into getting that reaction. And that's where I feel it's a bit, for me, if it was me nowadays, I wouldn't be on it. I would come off it, because there's nothing really good comes from it. I think if you do your talking on the pitch, you train well, you play well, you're a good teammate, you're a good person.
Aye. Well, I mean, I've read interviews with yourself in the past where you spoke when you were at Rangers, and sometimes the stick you got for Rangers fans. Yeah. Can you pass that on to the young players, like how you dealt with it, and give them advice? Like, would that be something that you do?
It's the thing when you play the Rangers or Celtic. It's strange because you're 21 playing in front of 53,000. You go to a reserve game and there's 38,000 at a reserve game if it's on Ibrox.
Aye.
It's that surreal for me telling David Devine, an up and coming Motherwell player, about handling crowd pressure. It's maybe not the same. However, if you keep your nose clean, you train well, and you're a good teammate, and you're graceful when you're beating a team 4-0, and you're respectful. If whatever, it's about teaching them basic day-to-day values. I think that's more helpful for these young lads, rather than saying, how do you handle playing in 50,000? Because I couldn't handle playing in front of 50,000 people. You maybe say that I did, but it's pressure, man. Oh, now, just like that ball comes over you and it bobbles. Bobbles happen. You hear half of them, even a quarter of them, groan or mumble. You're slow.
Especially at Ibrox, man. Ibrox, I mean, I've been going to Ibrox for years. Grado's the same, man. It can be a horrible atmosphere sometimes if the game's not going Rangers' way. And I can imagine the pressure on some players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it, though.
No.
That's the beauty of it. That severe, intense pressure of, I better be good today. So when you are good, it's like that raw emotion comes through you. And then, boom, you're 20 minutes after the game, that's gone, and you're now worried about the midweek game against Panathinaikos. So you're in constant fight or flight mode. So it's not natural, to be honest. It's not natural.
How did you find it, like, when you came to Rangers, obviously, like, working under Alex McLeish and stuff? What was it like initially when you came to Rangers, like the dressing room? Was it quite daunting for you?
No, really, because, and I've touched on this many a time in an interview, you're indoctrinated. I was indoctrinated when I was about 13, 14-year-old. So you everything, you're constantly tested, constantly. And in their days, it was a wee bit more, how would I say it, colourful, the language the coaches would use. And I don't want to go too much in, but there was all that stuff about, everybody's against you, you've got everybody wants to play against this badge, it's a final every week for the opponent and all that stuff. So you're constantly getting brainwashed into this. And wee things that the club did, the club used to have friendlies on the AstroTurf directly opposite Ibrox. You've got 3,000 people that are up and down there, an hour and a half before kick-off. Then you've got people in the club deck above it. Then you've got people inside the AstroTurf. So, I'm 14-year-old playing in front of maybe 2,000-3,000 people. So it's these wee things are there to put you under pressure. And by the way, there's 14, 15, 16-year-olds that can't handle it. Oof, they're out the door. The next batch.
It's all character building, isn't it?
Exactly. And by the way, I don't think they stumbled across it. I think that was by design.
Aye. You're probably right, man. I've never thought about it like that. I've never actually thought about it because me and my mates go to games and you stand there and you watch a lot of the games that are on, and I don't think it that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you stand outside the stadium and you look at it, so it could be like that. Right. What about like when you go in there, Alex McLeish, like, what was he like as a manager?
I was signed by Walter. I always feel it's strange calling him Walter, but the gaffer. And again, I was put into his room as the boot boy. So it was me and wee Pizzo. You must know Pizzo, you guys.
Who's that? Is that
McDonald, wee Pizzo.
Peter who?
Peter McDonald, he played.
Oh, aye.
Right, so there was me and Pizzo. So there was me, the wee geek that was scared everybody, and then you get Pizzo, the wee wido, you know, that would skive, and he would hide the boots that I had to polish, and I was getting in trouble, and he was talking. So I was put into that situation where I was in Walter Smith's room, and I don't know. I think like John Brown and John McGregor did that, so that I was in the coach's room, and they were on you all the time, making sure you were doing everything right, and just all these wee different things. Just building your character. And by the way, they were brutal. Well, I believe this is where academies go wrong nowadays. They try and make things so easy for every player, so simple and so laid out and so sterile. I think to become a Rangers player, you need to be the 1%. So don't pander to the 99. Let's find the one. And I'm talking for Rangers here, but I'm talking about any academy, Aberdeen, Hearts, Motherwell, Man United. Because
survival.
Football's no changed. So I think you've got to put hurdles in front of people, because the people that can get over these hurdles at 16, 17, 18, you better believe it, at 35, 40, 60, they'll be overcoming hurdles, because that's the type of character there.
So how did you overcome the hurdles? Because, I mean, your story is you were a young boy for Dundee, you come to big bad Glasgow, you've got to deal with this, you've got all that pressure. How did you manage it as a teenager?
A good kind of family background. John Brown was phenomenal with me. He was my hurdle. He was my day-to-day hurdle. So he deliberately tested me, deliberately put me into awkward situations. But again, he was always the one in the background that was propelling me forward. So it was like a paradox. He knew what it took to be a Rangers player. He wasn't interested in 90% of the boys, because he knew that 90% of them never had the character. They had the talent, but they never had the character. And this is what I'm saying is, anybody that walks through the door at Murray Park is a talented footballer. But who's the one that's got that gritty determination? Who's the one that's going to do that extra? Who's the one that does 11 push-ups when he's told to do 10? Who's the one that does 9 when they're told to do 10? You can smell them a mile. And I think this is where we need to alter. We feel we have to pander to everyone. But the stats go against it. Focus on the one or two that are going to get there and try and break them for day one. And because if you do break them, they're no Rangers or Celtic players or Man United players anyway.
That's so true, man.
Maybe a bit black and white, but it's how I see that there's failings in academies across the country.
But
so you must have seen. There must have been. On you go, Grado, mate.
Oh, you go, Bob. I was
going to say, there must have been, when you were coming through there and you're saying you're getting like John Brown's kind of in the background helping you, you must have seen so many talented football players come through at Rangers that just didn't make it.
So much. I mean, even when I first went to Rangers, I was just turned 14, and it was a friendly game. And boys like Robbie Nielsen, Jimmy Gibson, Billy Gibson, Pizzo, Stevie McAdam, all these boys, and I'm like, I'm miles off these boys, miles off it. I'm not even close to these boys, and I actually mean that. The boys are so gifted technically, far superior to what I was. But again, it's not just about talking about earlier, Gado, with it. 1 minute, 1.5 minutes of Premier League midfielders on the ball, top Premier League team that's got the ball all the time, a minute on the ball. So people always judge talent on touches on the ball, passing ability. But me reading a situation where I can see the angle's being cut off by the guy pressing the ball, which means I can change my angle. For me, that's a talent in itself, to be able to visualise that real time in the heat of the moment. That's a talent. That's coachable. That's what I try to do all the time and every day with my players. It's your chain of thought. You need to focus on your chain of thought. The questions you ask yourself every half a second, because if you ask the wrong questions, you'll get the wrong output. So this is how I try to coach every day.
And did the dressing room bother with you Maurice, when you were a boy? Obviously, so you had McGregor and Brown and stuff like that. But was there any players that you can remember that went out their way and spotted something and you went, right, I'm going to shield this boy, going to show him the rope, show him what the score is? Have you got any memories of players where you went, oh man, I thank him for that?
Craig Moore was great. Neil McCann was great. Barry, in his own way, was great. Barry was cool to be kind. Never let you let up. You know, if you let up that 1%, bang. So inadvertently, Barry was helpful. But I think the guy that I looked up to was definitely Craig Moore, and Neil McCann was also. I remember Neil McCann in my debut. He played on the right that night. I only played 15 minutes in my debut at Dens, and he came short for me all the time because the pitch was wobbly and whatnot. He came short for me all the time, and I said, Neil, thanks for it, because every time I got it, I just popped it 6-10 yards to Neil, so it went as if I kept the ball. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was under pressure to make a dribble or make a difficult pass. So I always remember that for Neil. I thought that's good emotional intelligence for Neil.
Tell me about an old firm, right? Can you remember your first old firm?
I do actually. It was Celtic Park.
Right. And come on, you're going into Parkhead, 60,000. Obviously, you know about it. You've been smartened up to it. But what's the difference like for that game? You're sitting in the dressing room. How does that feel? How does that feel for you?
It doesn't feel good. It's terrifying.
Do you feel sick?
Sick, nervous, excited. I mean, it's. You think about it, Grado. I mean, we're getting up at 7 o'clock for a 12:30 kickoff. We're eating pre-match meal at 8 o'clock. You know, try eating past at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't mind a chicken curry for the night before.
I've done macaroni at that time.
But no, it's terrifying. I mean, that first game, I was up against Bobby Pettit. And obviously, there's Larsons and all these boys, Petrov, Neil Lennon, and whatnot. So, Celtic were a phenomenal side as well. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal. Aye. So, for me being up against Bobby Pettit, what I said was I can't get involved in anything other than Bobby Pettit. My whole job was Bobby Pettit. So it was just like there was a laser on Bobby Pettit. And lucky enough, I get Sky Sports Man of the Match and BBC Man of the Match.
I remember that.
And I didn't think I played well since. but I just remember, I mean, I played at Celtic Park a couple of times, and I think it was the following time I played at Celtic Park. I think the next time I played was the Scottish Cup final, and we beat them 3-2. But it was a time at Celtic Park where it was a 12:30 kickoff, and just before we went out, the manager was Alan McLeish, would just call out the numbers. And obviously I'm starting, and he just went, Amaruso 5, Moore 6, Ross 7. I'm like, who's 7? I'm like, oh my God, that's Larson. And I just straight away, because I remember I had 2 yogurts and 2 bananas for my breakfast because I couldn't eat pasta, right? And I just felt the water coming down. You know when the water comes down into the back of your jaw there?
Aye.
And I went in, sick as a dog, came back out, and I'm leaning against it was the old Celtic tunnel, and I'm leaning against the wall there, and my mum's got the game taped, and the reporter guy says, oh, and there's young Ross looking so calm. You in the ring, I'm kidding on that I'm calm, but no, it's a whirlwind of emotion. It's a crazy. Like I said, it's no natural. It's no natural to try and perform in front of 60,000 people. But brilliant.
No, it's not. Aye. Yeah, I remember the Scottish Cup final, man. You're on the photo, my boy there, man. Just
was it the Scottish Cup final, or was it the CIS Cup?
No, mate, this is the Scottish Cup final, the 3-2 game, man. After Barry scored the free kick, you're in the background running there to congratulate him.
How does it feel being hung up on Chelsea Bolt Forever City's wall? That isn't natural. That's not natural. How do you feel about that?
Privilege.
You don't seem to be a guy that watches much River City, I don't think, do you?
No, I don't think he is, mate.
I actually don't watch much TV.
That wouldn't surprise me, man. That doesn't surprise me. Tell him, what do you like today? I don't see you as a fisher. I can see you being a bit of a chef. I can see you walking about your kitchen with a wee glass of Malbec or something like that. Is that your kind of? Is that what you like to do?
That I do love that. I like. I love watching documentaries.
Mate, I'm your guy. I'm your documentary guy.
You watching The Undoing now?
Oh, mate, that's what
documentary.
Mate, what did I say to you last night? The voice note, The Undoing.
That's true.
Mate, I watched episode 4 last night, and I sent Grado a voice note, said that's what me and my wife are sitting watching. It is really, it's good telly, man. That is good telly.
The problem with The Undoing is I've watched it kind of through Gogglebox. I've been watching folk on the telly watch it, so it's kind of spoiled it for
What
me.
are you doing that for?
Because I love Gogglebox.
That's just no, that's pure pish, man.
What's your favourite documentary?
I think of late it would need to be the Michael Jordan.
Oh, mate, that's I don't think I've seen a better documentary than that. I don't honestly.
No, I have. The Jinx blows that out the water. The Jinx, Robert Durst. He's a multi-millionaire in Manhattan, right? And he says basically he has all the money in the world, but it never brings him happiness, right? So on HBO, what happens is he killed all these folk, right? Years ago, but he got away with it. So HBO did an interview with him, and what he does, he ends up grassing himself in all the 6 episodes, and it's tremendous.
Wow.
You need to you'd love it. You'd love it.
That does sound good.
You've not seen the Jinx? Have you not seen the Jinx?
No, I've not seen it, mate. No.
That sounds pretty cool. By the way, have you watched the Iceman, Richard Kukinski?
Aye, mate, I've seen that.
I've not.
That is good. That. Aye, you have. We not spoke about that.
What was that one?
No, I don't.
Just when you're talking about in New York and people killing each other.
No, I mean murder documentaries are my go-to. I love murder documentaries, but that's what I can. So you like watching documentaries? Have you got any other wee kind of hobbies? Do you like collecting anything, or what do you?
You know what, I've just recently got a wee place just down the road that I actually quite like doing up flats. I really enjoy that.
Aye. We had Andy Little, and he was saying that Andy Little does that as well.
I enjoy the whole like designing it, and I enjoy it. I don't like tiles off the wall. No, I hate that crap. I enjoyed it.
But Maurice, tell us, how did the move to Norway come about?
Honestly, I went to Millwall. I went down south. Went to Millwall for a year, and Jackie McNamara was just coming back for his cruise shoot, so I was there to kind of be the right back when he was injured. When he then came back, there was no enough money on the budget for 3 right backs to be there. So I then went to Millwall, got injured, just didn't take to the place at all. And mate, when I got back fit, my agent says, "You fancy doing something abroad?" And I went, "Yeah, let's go straight away." And that was it. Went straight to Norway, played at a good club, Viking Stavanger, finished third, played in Europe. Great experience. I think Charlie Miller did it, Robbie Winters did it. Brilliant experience.
Did you bump into Charlie Miller when you were in Norway, no?
Pardon?
Did you bump into Charlie Miller when you were
Charlie was
in
there
Norway?
before I got there. So when I was going, Charlie was just finishing up, but Robbie was still there. But obviously the way Norway set out, it was 5 hours on a by bus or by car, and only like 25 minutes on a flight. So only really seen him when we played them.
Aye.
But a brilliant experience, and any young player that's got a chance to go abroad, they should go and take it.
Definitely.
Is that where you could? Is that where you become? I'm just trying to remember. Did you become a manager when you were in Norway?
Yeah, I managed for 4 years in Norway.
Do you think if you still played here, that would have still been the case? That would have been the way your path went, or do you think?
Yeah,
what took for you being in Norway? Like, do you know what I mean?
I think if I'd stayed in Scotland, I would have probably coached at the club I was at, my last club. You see that route into football all the time. I'd have been started taking sessions with the youth team, and I'd have followed that kind of route, I think. But the good thing about doing it on your own is you make your own mistakes being a manager. So you're kind of in charge of your own destiny, so to speak. So what I did was I made a plan for myself. So I had 4 years in Norway. So year one, I said, right, I'm going to go and play 4-2-3-1. And then once I understood the kind of intricacies of that, I then moved. The following year says I'm going to go 4-3-3. And luckily enough, we got double promotion and back to back. And then I moved on to what's deemed kind of a more successful club in that league. Finished third, played 3-4-3, 3-5-2, 4-3-3 on the 1 year. And then when I went to the Faroe Islands, I said, right, the formation that I want to really now focus on, because I felt like I had a good handle on 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1, was 3-5-2. And yeah, so I've went away. I've kind of been in boot camp, so to speak, because nobody cares about Norway. Because when I came back, I won the league in Norway twice and won the cup in the Faroe Islands, people like that. So
yeah,
But what I've done is I've gained a kind of database of knowledge of all these different formations. That when I went from that interview at Motherwell, it was a 45-minute chat with the manager and Keith Lasley, etc., and then a 45-minute training session. So that 6-7 years allowed me to go in at that kind of that invitation to Motherwell and nail the interview. So that is how I got in the door, because you don't get in the, Stevie Robson's not going to, he doesn't suffer fools gladly. So if you're not up to it, I wouldn't have got the job. So I was really grateful to get into Motherwell, and yeah, the rest history, so to speak.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be unfair and go like that. What do you want to do with your managerial career? Because I know you're still at Motherwell, but when I sit and I listen and talk to you, I think, man, this guy's got to be a mega manager. I just know it. You've got to be a mega manager. And I can't be the only one that's saying this, putting your ears up. But maybe I'm all right. One day you'll go like that, it's Grado that told me I was going to do the business. You know what I mean? It was getting fit by Daft, man, and he says, man, I'll manage in the Premier League, but surely there's somebody else in your log going like that, man. You've got it. You're strict. You're a bit intimidating. You like documentaries. You cook. You've got all the gifts of the gab. You've got it. You've got all the tools in the locker.
The fact that I've done it, even at a smaller level, it's still the same situations you're putting yourself in, just with different. It's still the same skill set. Right now, I thought I was a good manager on the 5-6 years that I'd done that. But now coming into professional level with Stephen Robinson, Keith Lasley at Motherwell, it's more than just managing players. It's managing up. It's managing expectation. It's managing fans. It's managing groundsmen. It's managing every single thing. And if I think football chooses you, Grado. I really do. I think you don't choose it; it chooses you. So if I am performing at a level that someone sees me and deems me a right option in time, by the way, I'm saying in time because I've got I would say a duty to perform for Motherwell and the manager. And if the right time comes when I'm 44, 45, whatever, and there's time, something opens up, then great. And if not, then I feel my abilities, my natural abilities on the grass and educating people.
And I see you in the dugout, man. You're going to be a manager very soon, I think, man, definitely.
And we alluded to talk on the carry on with a couple of weeks on in BBC where you were on and you were gaining your opinions, and then it ended up becoming a bit of articles and papers and being brought up at press conferences. Are we allowed to talk about that?
The lawyers would say no.
You're getting bothered because I think, man, you're only speaking the truth. I think you would be honest. It doesn't matter what team. I think you're just a brutally honest guy. Obviously, you've maybe been told that
it is
you're not in a position to comment, but I think
it is one of my traits that I do like to. I can sleep at night saying that I've given an honest appraisal on something. Whatever that subject may be, I'm going to be honest on it. I always feel like don't ask somebody's opinion if you don't want their opinion. But too often in life, I think people don't want your opinion. They want your opinion to be the same as their opinion.
Aye, whatever your opinion's going to be, a lot of people they've already got a headline made. It's the world we live in now. Whatever you talk about, if me and Grado were talking about it a while ago, you speak to like the newspapers, whatever, I do it with my job, Grado does it with his, you do it with yours. They've already got a headline made. Do you know what I mean? No matter what you say, and they just take out of that what they want to take out of it. And I think, along with like social media and everything, the modern day world is full of that now. Do you know what I mean?
It's up to me to yeah. I mean, I'm 39. I'm still learning what's right and what's wrong.
Aye.
Listen, I'm not by far the finished article. So, like I said, everything's. I'm talking to players every day about learning, and I'm still learning. So it's a journey I'm on, and I'm just loving being, back in Scotland on shows like this, being able to. You're giving me a platform to show how I think and what I feel. So I'm just grateful to be back in top flight football again.
Aye, I bet you. Aye. No, I'd say, man, I think it's exciting. I love listening to him talk. Do you know, Bob?
Aye, 100%, man. Probably the most intelligent guest we've had on, I'd say, Maurice. Definitely.
Bob,
Or the biggest bluffer.
What's that?
Or the biggest bluffer.
Aye, maybe, mate.
Oh, Bob, I'm sitting there, going like that, Bob. Sitting there kind of going, could he be the Rangers manager one day, man?
Aye, of course I'm thinking that. That's what I was sitting there thinking when he was talking. Obviously, man, definitely. Mate, I mean, what do you think of the, obviously being an ex-Ranger, Maurice, what do you think of the current state of Rangers at the moment? What are you thinking?
I think it's as good as it's been since Walter Smith.
Aye,
100%. Aye,
I see.
definitely.
Do you know when you know it's good at either one of the clubs? And I'm talking, and I'm putting this out here, whether Rangers or Celtic. There's no noise coming out Ibrox.
aye.
There's no noise.
Aye.
It's just turn up, win, go up the road. Turn up, win,
Aye.
go up the road. No noise, no speculation. It's business.
Aye.
That's what it seems like this year.
Mm-hmm. It certainly does.
It does, and it
I don't know
makes
how
me...
you feel as fans. I'm sure you feel the same. There's a
I feel...
kind of era.
100%, man, and it is...
That's what we were
It is
talking
the
about.
best.
Bob.
Aye.
We've felt like this as Rangers fans. I don't think it's been as this like
Since 2011.
and it's, the drama. There's no drama. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Everything
Definitely.
drama. Do you know what I'm saying? It totally
Aye.
is.
It still gives me the fear, but I mean, it's every week, man. I'm so...
Well, that's the beauty of it, though, isn't it?
Aye, it is definitely. I was saying to Grado earlier before you came on, it's like McLeish, back in the McLeish days and O'Neill days, where it's ding-dong battle. Celtic are playing this weekend and the Saturday, you're keeping an eye on that. Then we are playing Aberdeen the Sunday.
About earlier when I said about you've got that 20-minute period after a game where you're elated that you've won, and then you go, we've got Kelly during the week.
Exactly.
So it's short-lived. It's constant.
That's what I always think about. See, when I see, that's what I get kind of freaks me out a bit when I watch Rangers, right? Because the momentum scares me a wee bit. Do you know that way where I'm like, momentum's good, but then I'm like, will they be up for it on Wednesday night? Will this be the same? Do you know what I mean? Is something going to happen? That must be hard for a football. Is it hard for a football player? Is it no? Because you want to win, but it's every couple of days you need to be boom. This is a cup final this season. Do you know what I mean?
It's mentally draining, and that's why you need a big squad, because some players are not capable of playing 3 games a week for a season.
Aye.
That's where I think if you look at the subs 2, 3 and 4, they're good options all the time. I mean, we played Celtic a few weeks ago. I mean, their subs were Encham, Edward, and I can't remember the other one. And you're like, unbelievable subs. And so when you're seeing Rangers, the subs are now Morelos sometimes. Defoe.
Aye, exactly.
It's proper options. You know, you can rest Kent one bit and play Davis. You know, it's fantastic.
Aye.
So it's going to go right to the wire. I really think it'll go right to the wire.
Aye, it definitely is exciting, isn't it? It makes it spices it right up. But Mo, it's been good talking to you, right? Before we get to the quiz, I want to ask you, right? So your playing career, right? 10 years down the line, right? When you're a manager and somebody asks you, what was your proudest moment in your playing career? What was the best? I mean, maybe not your proudest moment, the best day in football. That question. Best day in football. Proudest day. You know what I mean?
I'm really, really not being a sycophant here, right? I'm not. But just playing for Rangers, period.
Aye.
That was it.
Aye.
No winning cup finals, of course they're special, but just being there for 8 years and being part of something that was special. That's, for me, I never thought I'd play for Rangers. I tried, I hoped, and I did everything I could, but I never thought I would. And then to be part of it for 8 years, it's something that's...
That's a great answer.
That's a great answer, man, when you think about it.
That is a great answer.
It's a genuine answer. It's not something I'm not trying to pander to people or anything.
No.
Really not.
No, totally, man. Totally, I get that. I mean, obviously Rangers are a massive club and you were part of a very successful Rangers time, man. So, aye.
And there's no many... Think of the amount of players that come through, and that's, you know, there'll be players that's their sole goal in life. I want to play for this team. But no even that, because, you know, he was brought up a Dundee United supporter, but it's that kind of... It's like me... It's like one, do you know what I mean? Being in a programme and going with loads of... Like, say, for example, Bob, you go on The Sopranos, right? That although that you've spent all the years in Norway City, right? Just you saying you've been in The Sopranos, it's kind of like that, isn't
it? Mate, if I get on The Sopranos, you'll never see me again. I'm off. I'm off, mate.
It's a prequel coming, that's what I'm saying. You are like you're like a cross between Joe Pesci and wee Jimmy Cranky. So you'd be perfect in the fucking prequel to Sopranos. I can see it.
Richie April.
Oh, there we go. There we go, man. I'll take that. All right, we'll end on that note, right? Maurice, every week on Football Daft, we put our guest football knowledge to the test with our 90-second quiz. You up for it?
Aye.
Right, we've got John Sutton and Chick Young are joint top with 15. Mark Wilson and Keith Lasley are tucked in behind with 14, while the good doctor Kenny Duker and Kevin Harper are just behind in third place with 13. Other selected scores include Jonathan Watson on 9, Ross McCrory on 6, Mixu Paatelainen on 3, and we've got the Falkirk manager and Andy Little, Falkirk manager David McCracken and Andy Little at the bottom of the league with 1 point.
I'm terrible.
You need to beat Keith Lasley, didn't you?
I'll not beat Lasley. Lasley's got unbelievable knowledge on.
He's good, man.
He was. But it's 90 seconds, Maurice, and you need to give an answer. You can't pass.
Okay.
All right, mate. Right, Ryan, you got 90 seconds on the clock?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Right, you ready, Maurice?
Yep.
Right, here we go, mate. Which league do Bristol Rovers compete in?
League 2.
In which year did you sign for Beijing?
2010.
Who is currently top of the goals and assists table for the Scottish Premiership?
Tavernier.
How many Scottish Cups have Hearts won? 6 or 8?
6.
How many different clubs has Maurice Ross played for?
14.
Which club did Alex McLeish manage next after Rangers?
Birmingham.
Who is the current captain of St Mirren?
Again. I don't know.
How many points does Scotland have in the current Nations League group?
10.
What nationality is the new Rangers signing Bongani Zungu?
Nigerian.
Who played in goals for Rangers in that 2005 Scottish Cup final you scored in? League Cup final you scored in?
Vaterus.
From which club did Rangers sign Nacho Novo?
Dundee.
Who is the shirt sponsor of Motherwell?
Oh, I better get this right.
Oh,
Oh my God. Pay something.
Time.
oh. Give you. Right,
Is
all right.
it time to answer
Aye,
the
pay,
question?
Yeah.
pay.
Aye.
Pay. What rhymes with chair?
Oh, this is terrible. I
Right,
don't
well,
honestly.
right, Ryan. There we go, mate. What's the scores in the dollars, Ryan?
6, 7. I'm going to give him 7 for that. 7.
7. Right, so mate, 7's no bad.
What was the incorrect answers?
So we'll go through them. So it was League 1 for Bristol Rovers, 2010 for Beijing. You got James Tavernier. It was 8 Scottish Cups for Hearts. I had wrote down 11 clubs, but you are very confident at 14, so I gave you it because you know better than me. Birmingham City, you got Kyle McGuinness as the captain of St Mirren. 10 points for Scotland. Bongani Zungu as South African. You got Vaterus, you got Dundee, and it was Paycare for the Motherwell shirt sponsor, Paycare.
PayPal at my head. I know it wasn't. But
See what you've done there.
But mate, 7's a decent 7 they got Ryan. That's all right. 7's all right.
Yep, 7.
There we go, mate. Know what I mean? Wasn't one, mate? Know what I mean? Wasn't like David McCracken and Andy Little, mate? Know what I mean? Right. Maurice, honestly, thanks for giving up your time, mate, and coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Audio Frontier.